Our next presenter is Dr. Dan Malone from the Department of Pharmacotherapy in the College of Pharmacy. His training as a pharmacist has led him to create novel approaches to improve medication safety. I promise there'll be no needles during this presentation. All right, next up.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing to improve medication safety here at the University of Utah. Unfortunately, my story starts with a little bit of a tragedy. See, about 20 years ago, my neighbor was a 37-year-old woman, and she had 2 young children. One day, she died suddenly, apparent heart attack. Unfortunately, her youngest child would go on to have 2 sudden cardiac events herself. We later learned that this family had a cardiac condition that was often precipitated by certain medications. It was around this point in time I began collaborating with a physician who had found a link between some medications and a very rare form of a cardiac arrhythmia called torsade de pointes. He had seen a patient very similar to my neighbor, relatively young lady, in the emergency room with this very unusual heart rhythm. After some investigation, we learned that the cause of that particular unique heart rhythm was the combination of 2 medications, an oral antibiotic and allergy medication. Since the 1990s, the primary reason we've removed medications from the market is because they induce sudden death, usually precipitated by the co-administration of 1 or more medications with those drugs that we've removed from the market. Some really effective medications are no longer available to us because we couldn't prevent patients from getting these medications together. That despite the fact that our computer systems were sending warnings about these particular interactions. Now, I imagine many of you have never seen a drug interaction, but you've probably seen this one, right? The dreaded check engine light. So when you showed up on your dashboard, what did you do? Did you get out of the car and open up the hood, look up, the engine's still there, close it? Probably not, but you probably turned the car off, on again, hoping it wouldn't show up again. And it does. So you take it to the mechanic, and the mechanic says, it's just a faulty sensor, not a big deal. They reset the computer, you drive home. The next day you hop in your car, there's that light again, and again, and again, and again. So what do? You ignore it, right? That's exactly what physicians and pharmacists are faced with. Every day they get alerts for drug interactions, serious drug interaction, contraindicated drug interaction. But the patient's been on the medication for over a year. What this has led to is a phenomenon we call alert fatigue. Over 90% of the drug interaction warnings that are given to physicians are overridden. To investigate why these physicians were overriding drug interactions, we examined some data from the Department of Veterans Affairs. We looked at over 9,000 reasons why physicians were typing in a response to a contraindicated drug interaction. It was called a hard stop, intended to prevent the practitioner from dispensing that medication or ordering that medication, wanted to really think about that combination. What did we find? Over 50% of the responses were blank. Like, blank? They were supposed to type something in. Well, they could hit the space bar in return, problem solved, order the medication. Not exactly what we intended. One of the other things we found was one of the most common characters we saw was ASDF. What medical acronym is ASDF? It's where the left hand sits on the computer keyboard. ASDF, return, problem solved. Well, this wouldn't be so bad if physicians recognized all the drug interactions out there. Unfortunately, studies by myself and others have found that physicians recognize about half of the serious drug combinations. Pharmacists don't do much better, about 60%. You know, as a pharmacist myself, I really have a lot of faith in the value that pharmacists bring to protecting the public's health. When we first implemented computers in pharmacy, we thought we were going to improve patient safety because we were going to be able to detect all those drug-drug interactions that we couldn't memorize. Well, unfortunately, alert fatigue has probably come home to the pharmacies as well. I'm going to tell you a little story. At one point in time, I received a call from a reporter from the Chicago Tribune. She had been investigating a situation of a person who had been harmed by a serious drug-drug interaction. She called me up and said, "Why isn't the FDA doing their job?" And I said, "Well, I'm not sure that this is necessarily the FDA's fault. I think it's a failure of our drug safety net." I convinced her and her colleagues, after a few phone calls, to investigate my hypothesis. So they proceeded to present 5 different combinations of medication orders to pharmacies throughout the Chicago area. Over the course of the year, they visited 200 pharmacies. What did they find? These were medications that shouldn't be dispensed together. Over 50% of the pharmacies filled both medications without providing a warning to the patient or calling the doctor. Why did this happen? We're not really sure, but my guess is the pharmacist was just blowing past the alerts because they'd been accustomed to doing that. So, why do we keep ignoring medication safety stop signs? It's because these alerts are so common, and the systems that we use to generate them use very simplistic rules. And as you can tell from the stop sign, it really tells you which direction to go, right? That's the way these alerts are. They don't tell us what to do. You know, we need to change how we deal with these particular alerts. And thankfully, we're getting there. Unfortunately, simple solutions to complex problems are not the answer. Whether a patient is going to be harmed for a particular drug interaction depends upon their risk factors. What other medications are they taking? What other prior conditions do they have? And even their age. Also, these computer systems are very simple. They consider all medications in the same therapeutic class to have the same risk. But our studies have demonstrated there could be a 20-fold difference between the medications with respect to harm due to drug interactions. So what do we do about this? Well, the good news is we've got electronic health records. We're trying to take advantage of those electronic health records and build upon our previous research and the strengths of the faculty here at the University of Utah. I'm really excited about this. Whoop, I'm going the wrong way. Let's see. There we go. This is DD Interact. This is a dashboard that we have implemented at the University of Utah Health System. It takes information about the patient from the electronic health record, combines that data with information about the medications, and provides a visual display of the risk associated with that particular combination for that particular patient. It's a dynamic dashboard, allowing the practitioners to look at different therapeutic options or different medications dynamically, real time. It allows clinicians and their patients to also incorporate over-the-counter medications that they may be taking. This is why I really enjoy, keep hitting the wrong button here. This is why I really enjoy being on faculty at the University of Utah. This project's not about me, it's about our patients. It's the collaboration that we have between all of our experts in the faculty, biomedical, medical informatics, drug safety experts, human factors engineering, and hours of interviews with doctors, pharmacists, patients. That allows us to build collaboration. The open doors here are fantastic. You know, one of my favorite things to do is to fly fish. And I love going to the river, casting, hoping I'm going to catch a fish. However, not every day is successful. I spent many a day casting with nothing on the other end of the line. It's about that point in time I'm reminded of the old joke. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for different results. That's what our computer systems are doing with drug interaction alerts. We're sending this same information over and over again to many practitioners, hoping that they'll pay attention to those alerts. We can do better. We must do better. Here at the University of Utah, through DD Interact, we're changing the paradigm on how we view drug safety. And that, I hope, will keep our patients safe and alive. Thank you.